Welcome back, everybody, to our YouTube channel where we make lessons on spoken Philippine Hokkien using Pewe writing system. In this lesson, we will be explaining grammar and how tone switch in a sentence. Before we show sentence examples, we will be explaining the following technical terms that we will refer to along the way. First of all, standing and running tone contours come in pairs, each tone category consisting of a running and a standing tone contour. Remember this chart? Uh, to put it simply, think of each tone category as being switches, like switch on and off. See how when a tone changes, it doesn't just arbitrarily change into any other tone. Rather, they switch specifically within the pair in which they belong to. A good analogy of this would be imagining that the off switch to be the standing tone and the on switch being active to be the running tone. Moving on, we have the standing tone. For standing tone, when a syllable is at standing tone, what we usually mean by this is that the pitch is at its default sound. Usually, when you ask an elder what a word is in Hokkien, they will reply to the word in this pitch. This is known as the standing tone. This doesn't usually help you if you wish to pronounce it correctly in sentences, since the pitch of that syllable may or may not be subject to the switch. Standing tones are generally seen at the end of phrases, clauses, or sentences, regardless of any parts of speech, such as noun, verb, adjective, etc. If seen in the middle or beginning of a sentence, this is commonly applied to pronouns and nouns, unless the noun is a compound noun, at which point only the final syllable of that compound noun is standing, just like in any other compound word. So moving on, we have the running tone. So when a syllable is at its running tone, this means that the pitch is at its so-called sanded or changed form. When asking a native speaker what a word is in Hokkien, they usually would not pronounce the word in its running form, but they do unknowingly expect you to pronounce this form within sentences depending on context. Now, we will further explain what this context is. So, running tone is seen with a sentence within a sentence in verbs, adjectives, and adverbs when it is seen modifying the immediately following noun on or other part of speech. Running tones are usually seen at the start of the sentence or middle of the sentence and never at the end. So moving on, we have the neutral tones. So for neutral tone is not an actual tone, but in a sense, this sound appears as a glide from the last pitch of the previous syllable. Neutral tone is very much a part of daily speech and cannot be omitted. This is only seen at the end of sentences, indicating that the speaker has reached the end of thought. In some way, having a neutral tone also puts more emphasis on the action being done.
For example, we have di tio kagwa. So in the first sentence, um, it has reached the end of thought. That is why the neutral tone is being used here. And the neutral tone indicated using a double hyphen, which is separating the verb here with the object, um, which is a pronoun here. So verb and a pronoun. So it would sound like dityo kagwa. However, if we don't have this double hyphen, if we don't have a neutral tone in the sentence, even if it's just the same exact words being used in same exact order, it will have a different meaning. Instead of dityo kagwa, meaning you should teach me, it will become dityo kagwa. And when you say that, it sounds as if the speaker is still trying to say something additionally, which is not indicating an end of thought. So what happens is dityo kagwa, and then the the person listening would think you're going to teach what's this? You need to teach me what? What do you need to teach me? Dityo kagwa siá̤-mih kagwa, it's not an end of thought. So this is a very good example of why a neutral tone is very important because it pretty much concludes the sentence. Okay, your turn, Sigmund.
Okay. So, as Tim has explained it, neutral tone is also used in other particles and suffixes to modify words that appear before them based on context. A neutral tone for pronouns always occurs when the pronoun comes after the verb and that the pronoun is at the end of the sentence. Moving on to the grammar, uh, Tim will be the one to discuss it, and uh, you, you will see the application of the running, standing, and neutral tones.
Thanks, Sigmund, for explaining how the tone change works. Now let's move on to concrete examples of real life examples of sentences so that we could demonstrate how the word order works and how the word order works on the grammar and how it also affects how the tone change. First, let's start simple. In this kind of sentence, subject, verb, object order occurs in English, so we're very familiar with this kind of word order. It's just a very simple word order. Gua jia peng, gua jia peng. If we say each character in just the standing tone, it will be gua jia peng. So the only word that changed in tone here is actually jia because it's being used as a verb. It's being used as a verb here. So that will be using running tone, which will turn the rising jia into a low flat. Jia. Guat jia peng. I eat rice. Next we have a little bit more complex word, but still within that subject verb object kind of logic. So now we have guabet jia peng. So we just added a helping verb in guatiapang. I eat rice, and now I would say I want to eat rice. I want to eat rice. Guabetiapang. So ja is the one that's running, and be is also running. However, be, even if it's running here, the tone doesn't change because of the tone rule on how the tone 4 works. Tone 4 does not change. It's just if it's a glottal, if it's just a H stop, then it will just be high flat. So that's why it sounds the same here, even though it's technically still a running tone. So I want to eat rice. Be means want. Or it could also mean will, depending on how you explain it in the context. So it could also mean, it could also indicate, what do you call that? That it's going to happen. So I will eat rice, or I want to eat rice. Be. Next we have guade tak che. Guade tak che. Um, just the same as helping verb. Be, le is in this manner. The way we use le is how do you say that? Not really, not necessarily. It's not a present tense because there's no tenses in Hokkien, but it's more of a particle that would turn the verb, would modify the verb into a something that's going ongoing in the present. So in a way, it's a present tense, but without the tense. So it means roughly means I currently read book. So if you just say "gua takche," it just means I read book. Or another meaning for takche is meaning to study or going to school. Very vaguely, going to school. But in this way, we could also say tak to mean to read. Che. You could also say kwa che. You could also use kwa. Okay. So kansu in Mandarin. But in this case, it's kwa. So it's written like that, kwa. And if we replace this, here, then it's still the same. It will be running tone. So instead of kwa, it'll become kwa, kwale, kwa che. So I currently read book. Running, standing. The very end is standing. So that's how the grammar works and how the tone changed there. Let's make it a little bit more complicated now. So we have subject, adverb of time, an auxiliary verb, which is will here, which is functioning as like a future tense, even if it's not technically a tense. And then we have a verb group here, because it's a group of verbs. So, gua binadit be kisyong pan. Gua binadit be kisyong pan. Gua bin a dit be ki xiong pan. If I say each of this the words in just the standing tone, it will be gua bin a dit be ki xiong pan. So now that obviously, if you put all those sounds together in a sentence and speak it like that, it's gonna sound really, really strange. That's why, following this logic, we could tell which are the standing and the running tones, and how we explained earlier the rules regarding that, the tone changes. So, I tomorrow will go work. Gua is I, binadit is tomorrow. And actually, this literally, if we break this down even more, bin is more like the next, bina is next, and then dit is day. So this literally means next day. And since we noted this as adverb of time, we could even say that probably this isn't really an adverb, but rather an adverb attached to a noun here, which is day. So we have adverb as next, and then we have day as the noun. So binadit. But just to put it simply, this whole thing will function as an adverb of time. And then we have the rest here. Just auxiliary verb, be, indicating will, just going to happen. And then ki xiong pan. Ki means go. Xiong pan means to attend, or to go to work, or to attend. Okay. So we have two verbs here actually. Is go and then attend to. I tomorrow will go attend. Okay, next we have subject, verb, receiver, and object. So, 挂火的钱，挂火的钱 I give you money. So technically, since this is a pronoun, this is pronoun, this is a standing tone, another pronoun standing, and then now we have a final noun at the end of the sentence, which is standing. Now this is a, how do you say? It's a verb. It functions as a verb here, but we will show you later how it could function differently. So in this case, it's a verb, so it's running. But since it's tone six doesn't go anywhere. It does, I mean, not go anywhere. It doesn't change. It's gonna be low flat. So it won't change anyway. It's gonna be the same. Next we have subject, preposition, object, and verb. 你好我注意，你好我注意。You make me bahala. So, as we can see here, the running tones are running, yeah, running tones are ho, which doesn't change, just like what here above, it doesn't change because it's tone 6. And then we have running here as in zu'i, because even though it's the end of this compound word is in the end of the sentence, um, the it's a compound word, yes, it's a compound word, so the all the syllables in the compound word except for the last syllable will be a running tone. So zu will be affected by a running tone. Zu yi, zu yi. Okay. And next we have 这个口气也贵，这个口气也贵. This test very easy. And now, what we want to show that this is different from English is that there's an involvement of a classifier, which you cannot say without it. It has to be 这个口气也贵. You cannot say 这口气也贵. So that involves a classifier. This is general classifier for anything. So this general classifier will be running. The ko in kochi, which is this is a noun as itself. So even though a noun isn't inherently gonna be running tone in any part of the sentence, the fact that it's a compound noun shows that the syllable, any syllable before the final syllable of the compound noun will be affected by running tone. So ko instead of ko, it'll become ko chi, ko chi. And then yeah, since this is an adverb will become a running tone. And then koi is adjective, but since it's at the end of the sentence, it will be a standing tone. What else? Yes, so this one, tige, if this is by itself, this demonstrative with a classifier, then it will sound like tige. But if since it's describing what comes after with this noun, which is a test, it becomes tige kochi. So that's how it works. Next is subject, auxiliary verb, and perfective particle. So guabe kundo, I will sleep na. So I will sleep already. Gua is me. Be will. Will is in this case we use will because it's indicating future tense, and then kun is the verb, and lo. So now if you notice here, we have a new type of tone contour, which isn't really a tone, but as Sigmund described earlier, the neutral tone follows um, the pitch of the last pitch of the previous syllable. So since this one kun is a falling tone coming from 4 to 1, the one part is what the lo would sound like. So kun lo. That's the effect of the neutral tone. It will be dependent on the last pitch of the last syllable. Okay. But then now we have subject, verb plus object, complement, and perfective particle. 我随去了咯. So this, like the previous sentence, this also involves a neutral tone. This time the neutral tone sounds different, of course, because neutral tone is always dependent on how the previous syllable sounds like. And in this case, rather than being 4-1, this is a 5-5. And then from a 5-5, we start from 5 and 5-1. Liao lo, liao lo. See that how that works? It just follows it. It just glides. So like lo means na, or already. I wash hands, finished already. You can say 我水去了咯. So that really clearly shows that you have finished the act of washing your hands. But you can also say 我水去了. When you say 我水去了, then people would understand that they will understand that you have washed your hands, but 我水去了. Does it mean that you finished washing your hands? On context, yes, you would assume that he finished washing his hands, but we don't know if he didn't specifically say that he finished washing his hands, but you know that he at least started it. But this one, 我水去了咯, that clearly indicates that he finished washing his hands already. Now we have subject, adverb, negation, verb, complement, and object. Now this is a much more complex sentence to demonstrate, but this is a very good example how a sentence involves a majority of running tone and then only a few standing tones. And we will also further break this down to show how the tones change drastically. So, 我也未想到辦法，我也未想到辦法，我也未想到辦法. Now we say these characters in only the standing tone. It will sound like 我也未想到辦法. So it sounds completely different. Now we get the meaning of this. I, gua is I, ya is still, be is not yet, siu is thought, stink is stink, is stink. But if there's a tio that's attached to the siu, then it means it's roughly a somewhat of a past tense, but not really, because it could be interpreted in many ways. It doesn't indicate completion though, but it can indicate that it has already happened before, but not necessarily mean that it's completion. And then panhuat is a method or a way that you've it's a method. What else here? So if we start taking away, just to demonstrate how tones would work here, the tone change would work, let's take away panhwat. Panhwat. Let's see what happens now. If I would read the sentence, imagining that this is not here anymore. Wa ya be siu tio. Now, do you understand what happened now? The tio is neither a standing nor a running tone, but it actually turned into a neutral tone because the complement, when it's at the end of a sentence, it'll become a neutral tone. Let's edit this. Let's edit this sentence. Slowly delete this sentence. So that there's double hyphen and how we the sounds like siutyo. It's starting from mid low flat, and then from the two pitch of two, it will come down to all the way to one. So it'll become siutyo. Just follows. It just glides. That's how it sounds like. So this would mean I still haven't thought it out. What yabe siutyo. Sorry about this one. Now let's take away. Let's just take. Okay, this is easy. If we just take away tyo, the siu will just stay the same, sound the same because it's 6 tone anyway, tone 6 anyways. Let's take away these both. Let's see how the sentence sounds like now. It will sound different. Now it sounds like wa yabe. I still haven't. Still not yet. Previously it was wa yabe siutyo. Now it's wa yabe. Be changed from be as running to be as standing. So let's put standing here. So the running was 2-2, and now the standing is 4-1, which indicates a falling tone, falling sound. So there we have it. That's a very good example for the tone change. Okay, now we move on to subject, preposition, object, and verb. This is something, this functions more like on, more focusing on the prepositions that we use here. Like, if you're going to talk to someone, you'll say, no, if you will talk to someone, you tell him, "Wag kang dikong, wag kang dikong," and then you continue on your sentence. Wag kang dikong. So the kang here, kang, is a running tone, so it becomes kang. That's a low flat. And this means to. I to you speak. And then you could continue on your sentence and speak to them. What do you want to say? Wag kang dikong. And then next we have subject, preposition, indirect object, verb, and the direct object. So we have two objects here. Subject being the, you, and then for I open door. Di kangwa kui meng. Di kangwa kui meng. In correct English grammar, this would translate to open the door for me. So di kangwa kui meng. But in word for word translation, it would be you for I open door. All right. Okay. Well, that's it. Anything else to add, Sigmund?
Not anymore. I guess that's all for the basic grammar. Yeah. And I hope that all of you learned a lot and would be able to start forming sentences at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very important. That's what we're trying to teach you all, is how to form sentences. And I know this is all supposed to be just a basic. These are just basic sentences in Hokkien that we would use in their daily life. Very useful. But the manner that we're approaching this is we're trying to make you guys understand what tones are changing and why they change, that logic. So
And
if you still don't understand or what, please comment. Feel free to comment what you don't understand about this, and we'll explain it to you.
yeah, and for I would say that you just you know memorize the tone chart that was shared in the first page a while ago, and once you do it, you'll be able to know when to use which tone in the tone pair. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And this, of course, well, the best way to learn how to speak is to keep on
Yes.
speaking it. But if you don't have that environment or what, this method is a way to consciously guide you on what tones to use. Because to be honest, for the majority of native speakers, they don't even know what the tones even change. Some people don't even think tones even exist in Hokkien, but then they
Mhm.
could just speak it correctly 100% of the time.
Yeah, you just need to practice, just like what Tim said a while ago. You just need to practice forming sentences, and then you'll notice that first is when Tim said each component, each word in the sentence a while ago as all in standing tone, didn't you notice that it sounds very off? So at least now it's sort of like we gave you an idea when to use the running, standing, and the neutral tone. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. Because that we're this is more, it's like a guide to on how to speak like a native speaker.
yeah.
I mean, of
It
course, other
it's
people,
it's
yeah.
more like it's more like a cheat sheet, or like we're already giving showing you the magic behind it.
Yeah, the how
Yeah.
it works, yeah. Of course, like you don't even need to learn this if you're gonna speak it every day. But even if you do know how to speak, if you're intermediate speaker, what learning this is actually pretty interesting because you could learn new vocabulary and not really rely on people to repeat it again for you because you would already know how it sounds like in two forms in the pairs, just like what you have
Oh yeah.
on pairs.
To add on to what Tim said, um, as you can see on the tone chart, right? You see that there are tone diacritics or tone marks. So usually, if you only rely on speaking, you will have to, just like what Tim said a while ago, you will have to uh get used to the habit of asking the native speakers how to say this a lot of times, like that. But when you are aware of when running and standing tones appear on certain tone categories based on their tone marks, uh you don't need to ask the native speakers often how to say certain words just so that you can remember it, because once you are able to recognize it on based on what tone they belong to, it's easier to remember.
Yeah, what tone they belong to, and moreover, you could even write it down since you already know the diacritics. You could write it down in the phonetics. You know the diacritics and the phonetics. You could just write it down on your notes, go back to it, and you could speak it perfectly, pronounce it perfectly every time if you memorize this kind of tone chart. Yeah,
I guess that's all we
yeah,
can say for now.
that's
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Hope you learned a lot from this lecture, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And see you in our next video.
See you in our next video. All right.
Yes.